today's Miss Pursuit episode, Susie Busta from Minnesota joins me for a conversation that covers not only who she learned to be a fisherman from, who is very different than a lot of women in our community, but also the processing of heartache from losing a harvest. And we've all been there. I have been there. And it's a great conversation to have. So listen in. Let's talk about hunting. Let's talk about ice fishing and the safety parameters that you need. But you'll also hear a great recipe for crappie. So listen in and enjoy. All right, listeners, thank you for joining another podcast for Miss Pursuit. Today, I'm excited because we've got a contributor on here that I'm thrilled to learn more about. Susie Busta is with us today. And Susie, thank you for hanging out with me for about an hour. It's going to be fun.
Thanks for having me, Amy. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, I kind of like to hear at the beginning how people got involved in the outdoors. What kind of drew you to it, and when was it? And I guess, how did it keep you in? There's the draw, and then there's the why did you stick with it? So just kind of take all the time you want and tell us all about that beginning process for you.
Sure. We have to go like way back. My mom was an avid fisherwoman when I was little. I remember, standing next to her when she brought home these fish from fishing, going through her tackle box.
Wow.
Playing with her fishing pole. I mean, just stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, for the fishing side, that's where that started for me, was kind of watching her do it and seeing how she did it and then incorporating it later on in my life. I started, I think, really getting into fishing when I was in college. Not so much, in high school, things like that, but more so in the college sense where you kind of have maybe a little extra downtime to do things.
Right.
So that's where that kind of started for me. Hunting side, our family is a family of farmers. So hunting, you hear stories about my dad took me hunting, my mom took me hunting. That never happened for me when I was little. I want to say probably 10 years ago, I decided, maybe from seeing it on social media, friends doing it, I don't really recall the exact moment when I was like, oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But I decided I wanted to start bow hunting. So I did my research. I found the bow I wanted. I found the guy I wanted to go through. I purchased it. And then, with help of friends, and kind of learning tips on the internet, tricks, and a lot of learning as you go, I started bow hunting and hunting on public land and doing the scouting. And that's where that part of my life, the hunting part, started for me. So that has continued on for, like I said, about 10 years. I did take I want to say a year and a half break in there. And then I met my now husband, and we drive each other. I mean, he's an avid fisherman, avid hunter. He's like the master of all the outdoors things. And so he really drives me to be better at what I'm doing. And I drive him, I hope, to be better at what he does. So I got him into bow hunting. He got me into the waterfowl, the goose hunting, that kind of side of stuff. So for us, he's been doing it for a long time. And like I said, I haven't been doing the hunting side, but the fishing has always been in there somewhere in my life. And so, that's continued. That's it. We love it. We love to go out there and put in the hard work. And it's a lot of hard work when you hunt public land.
Yes.
It's, a lot of scouting, a lot of dealing with people you don't necessarily
Amen.
And it's just been something that we love, and we're trying to incorporate now into our our son's life.
Isn't that it kind of comes full circle when that happens?
Yes, it totally does. It
Yeah.
totally does.
And I love that part of it. And I love kind of what you said. I started fishing as a young child, and it was in the creeks and lakes of
Mhm.
mountainous Alabama. So think the northeastern side of Alabama, kind of the bottom part of the Appalachian Mountains. And so we fished catfish and
Mhm.
trout and bass kind of in those areas as a young child. I remember fishing for catfish with hot dogs after the picnic that the family went and did for Mother's Day. So I started fishing and I loved fishing. And I think that is an excellent way to introduce kids to the community of hunters and anglers. Um, it's it's honestly the first thing that we did with our kids was put a fishing pole in their hands. And
Right.
it was a great way of introducing them to harvesting something, whether you were going to take it and cook it and eat it, or if it was if you're going to return it to the water. So it just it's a great way to learn. But when you said that your mom was the one that was the avid fisherwoman, that's pretty cool. You don't hear that often, that your mom being an avid fisherwoman. You don't hear a whole lot of women being able to say, I grew up watching a woman that I look up to teaching me something and instilling something that I still carry today in the outdoors. That's pretty awesome.
Right. And, for us, it's kind of me and my sister, but my sister's not so much into it, but I am. But I remember, I have pictures now where I'll look back and I'll see my mom and my grandma catching fish out on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, you don't always hear the stories that go with it. My grandma's passed away, but you look at the pictures and that almost gives you that story that you want. This is why I like it so much. This is
Yeah.
why I want to do it. Things like that. It's nice to look back on those and see what actually was going on, and what they were doing, and where it started.
It's true. My on both sides of my family, well, on one side of my family, it was the men in my life that would fish, but on the other side of the family, my grandfather was a forester, and he would go off to work, and my grandmother would get the kids off to school, and then she'd go down and sit at the dock all day and fish. That was her thing, and they were sailors, and so they'd go out on the sailboat, and she would fish off of the boat or off the dinghy, and she loved to do that. Now, I was not around when she was doing that, but to hear the stories, it does kind of inspire you to carry on that legacy. And having a daughter now, it's exciting for me to pass that on. I've got a daughter and a son, and so it is great to pass it on to both of them. But to have those lessons brought down of strong women in our homes is pretty cool.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Man, I did not know that. That's exciting. It really is. I think out of all of the people that I've interviewed, all of the women that I've interviewed, there's only a handful of women who have had women in the outdoors guiding them through their childhood. So I love that. I think it's going to change, right? Over the next couple of generations.
I think so too. I mean, you look at some of the social media accounts, especially on the Instagram side of women that are taking their kids out to do hunting, fishing. I mean, it's just you find the accounts if you can find them, because Instagram.
Yep.
And you see it, and it's inspiring to see that we're doing this and we're promoting that next generation. And it's different because it's not always the dad taking out the kids. So it's kind of refreshing to see.
It is. I think that, they've talked a lot about, the baby boomers and a lot of the hunters and anglers being in that generation. And then you have our generation kind of from, I would say from the 70s on, that
Yep.
like late 70s on, this generation. And I think that there is a little bit of a fall off until women have started jumping into it on the numbers. And so
Right.
I think that our generation is what is setting up the future. Of course, we say that all the time, but I think that that's the setup, right, of building that community back. So I feel like my kids' generation, hopefully, because we're getting women involved, and that means the whole family then is getting involved, I'm hoping that their generation will then explode and be, A, have a place that they can hunt and fish, but B, that they can be great examples of what our community can do.
Exactly. And I mean, I think, I don't remember where I saw that statistic. I know it was somewhere that I think now during the coronavirus pandemic, that this is the most, it was fishing licenses or hunting licenses that our state has sold. It's, I think, been a record number. That they've done. And hopefully, that means that those people are also taking out their kids and involving them in it too, because, people have different time now. It's kind of
I agree.
weird time to do things, but hopefully more time for the outdoors and hunting and fishing and involving your kids in that process.
It'll be interesting to look back. For Tennessee, our spring turkey season had more turkeys harvested in, I don't know the exact statistic, but it's been a long time. It was enough that they ended up agreeing to change the amount of turkeys taken next year due to how many turkeys were taken this year. And it was because people were able to get out. Everything was shut down in the spring. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of deer season, how many people got out and hunted, how many deer were taken, and honestly, the difference between last year and this year of how many does were taken.
Right.
To fill the freezer.
Right.
Yeah. And we have a pretty lenient amount. Like we can take 3 doe in a day here in Tennessee from the end of September to the beginning of January.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, but totally different up here. But yes.
Yeah, it's totally different. But it will be interesting to see how many people actually did that. And hopefully how many people were able to do that and donate to soup kitchens and Hunters for the Hungry and be able to pass that gift on with everything that's going on and the shortages of things. And it'll just be interesting to see over the next 5 years how this year is going to incorporate and be different or start a new trend. It'll be
right.
I think it'll be surprising.
Yeah, and management wise, they're going to have to.
Yeah.
It's you don't know. I guess you don't know what next year is going to bring, pandemic wise. So you kind of take it as you go.
Yep, it's true. It's very true. I'm hoping that this deer season will help our western part of the state manage our CWD a little bit with being able to hunt more. So being able to cut down those numbers just a little bit more maybe than the past year and hold at bay that disease. Right. Yeah. We'll have to see what happens. Man. Okay. Well, I do want to kind of hear, I've always said that there are my favorite stories to tell from hunting, that if we were sitting around just shooting the bull, having a good time, these stories are the stories that pop up. And they're constantly stories that I wouldn't say are always the positive side of it. if that makes sense. It's not necessarily the harvest, those kind of victories, but it can also be lessons pushed into stories that were really hard. And so I didn't know if you had a few to tell us. I'm sure you do.
I think about my favorite moment of being in the outdoors, and it isn't hunting, it's fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if I was to tell somebody, I always try and incorporate my family into the story usually that I'm telling. And now that involves our son. So it was his first time ice fishing, and that was last year. And that's my favorite moment so far. I know I'll probably have another coming up, but just taking him out and seeing him experience that was something that as a mom, as a dad, that just is amazing to watch their eyes experience something that you love
Mm-hmm.
and you already know. So we took him out on the sled. He wasn't walking. He wasn't even crawling, I don't think, if I look back on it now. Bundled him up, took him out on the sled. And this is just a pull behind sled. So pulled him out on the ice. And we had tip-ups out because we had to go back in with him in Minnesota. We were actually in Wisconsin, but in Minnesota and Wisconsin, it gets bitterly cold this time of year, so you can't keep your little kid out that long. So in and out we would go whenever the tip-up would go out or up, and just taking him out and catching or reeling up our first northern and having him look at that fish and see that fish. And he was happy as a clam, just being out. And just, that for us was a favorite moment for seeing that first time, for him to see that moment, that experience, and knowing that hopefully it'll continue on and he'll doing that.
And how old is he?
He is a year and, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this wrong. A year and like 7 months now, 8 months.
I was noticing, so I was looking through those pictures, and there's the picture of him in that little red sled with the fishing rod in his hands and his sunglasses on and the big grin on his face.
Yep. He loved, I'm hoping he hasn't been out this year. We're just starting now to get our safe ice. So he hasn't been out on the ice yet this year, but I'm hoping it'll be the same this year.
Yeah.
He's mobile now, so it's going to be a challenge, but he had a really, really good time last year being out on the ice and enjoying it. Just new things, new experiences. And it's just, I love seeing that in his eyes, and watching him actually enjoy what we're doing too is really important to us.
It's true. Somebody posted a picture today and told a story about how they had been camping as a family and hunting as a family and doing all of this. And so their daughter had written an essay about her favorite thing. And it was the camping and the hunting and being out with each other. And it just made me think there's joy in me taking my kids out and them doing something with me that I love. But when it turns over, and I've got preteens now, I've got a daughter who's about to be 13. And so when it turns over and you start seeing their joy become their own, like my joy actually becoming their own and them finding joy in it, it can start at such a young age, like you said, seeing his smile when the excitement is happening. And it's just when it becomes their own, it's magical as a parent. And we've done that with fishing every now and then. But man, when my son got his first deer last year, the joy also came with processing through it
Oh, yeah.
and thinking
Yes.
through that whole experience and coming out on the other side and him coming to his own conclusion. I do love this. This is what I want to keep doing.
Yep.
And there's a sense of pride with it as a parent, but there's also a sense of joy on my end that can't be replaced by anything else. Just to see them take it on as their own and find that pure joy that we ourselves find.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, for him, his dad got a deer last year and he had experienced that, seeing it. But this year, his dad got a deer as well, and it's a different experience. But he was so interested in seeing it
Mm-hmm.
and looking and touching and, just curious about, what is this? And, us telling him this is food. We're thankful for this.
Yeah,
We're thankful this deer gave its life for us, and we'll use it. We use as much as we can. We process all we can off of it. And I think it's so fun to see them experience it through the years in different aspects,
mm-hmm.
grow and seeing it go.
Yeah,
And I'm excited to see that, too, as he gets older,
yeah,
what it's going to be like. And you always hope, I hope it keeps on. I hope he loves to do that. But if he chooses not to hunt or fish, hopefully he'll take that hard work aspect into his life and at least use that when he's older.
exactly. We had a moment earlier in the season. We lost a pup in our house last spring, and she was a dog that we've had in our lives since, 2003. Like, we've had her for a long time. And
Yeah.
that was coming into hunting season. He was still carrying some of that grief.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was one of those situations where he said, I'll go, but I don't necessarily want to harvest this year.
Yep.
And he's still processing through the grief. And I think that that's where, now if I went out and had a conversation, hey, do you want to go hunting? I'm pretty sure that his answer would be, yes, I do.
Yep.
But I think that's only because we didn't push it at the beginning of the season. We respected where he was coming from and let him process kind of through those feelings. And I think that that's going to kind of, like you said, it's going to wane and flow. It's going to ebb and flow and come, when he's in high school and he might be busy with friends and things. There's not that. We're not going to be those parents that push, hey, no, you need to be in the woods. You can't do this. You need to be in the woods. It's going to be one of those things that he's going to have to take and learn how to do it on his own and make those decisions. And he could step away from it and he could come back to it, but there's never going to be that push. You have to do this, because that's when you lose people in our community, whether they're your kids or they're somebody that you're introducing to hunting. The second you push it is the second that it becomes yours and not theirs.
Yep. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just that respect and that feeling of whether you're observing who's with you, from like taking a slower approach to conversating about it, or a slower approach to, hey, let's just go sit today. You don't have to pull a trigger. You don't have to let go of a bow. And I think that the faster you push somebody into it before they're ready, the faster you push them away from it. So I agree with everything you just said about your son. And again, you can apply it to anybody that you're hunting with who is not familiar with hunting.
Oh, definitely. And I think, this season, I was thinking about this season, and it's been the most I've ever sat in my stand. It's also been the most heartbreaking season I've had, the toughest mentally. Um, and I think for me, I had a really difficult hunt I think it's been a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. And I came home and that was it. I was done. And
Mm.
said, you need to take time,
Mm-hmm.
you need to process what you went through, and then you need to decide for yourself. But he would always kind of push me and say, you're going to go hunt tonight, or you need to go hunt tonight. And whether or not that's just sitting there, like you said, in
Mm-hmm.
the stand, or if it's actually deciding that, hey, I'm gonna hunt and I'm gonna try if there's a deer. It just depends on the situation. But as long as you've got a good support system, I think, or friend, family, whoever it is, parent, that's always going to be there. And if you decide, hey, I'm going to give it a break for a while, but maybe I'll pick it up later, and they're like, okay, I think that's totally important
Yeah.
in your life.
What happened that what happened that pushed you that far? Because
Oh,
that is, I've been there. I've had to take a break. I've had to step away. And there has
yep,
been, and I think that every hunter does that. Like, I don't want you to think that that's what I'm saying. I think every hunter comes to a point in their hunting life where they go, okay, is this really what I want to do? Or do I
yep,
need to step away for good? And
yep.
so what pushed you there this year?
Um, this year early on, I had a doe that I shot and we lost her. And that
Mhm.
just, I think for any ethical hunter, that's just I can't even, it hurts. It's hard
Yeah.
because we found good blood, and then we couldn't find her. We looked, I came home, my husband looked, I think it was till 11 or 12 at night, because I had shot her pretty early. So for maybe 4 hours he looked, and then we went out in the morning and we looked all morning. We just couldn't find her. And so we hope, that she survived and is, recovered. But so that happened, and that was heartbreaking in itself. But then I had a beautiful buck come in, and he was perfect shot. I mean, I couldn't even have asked for a better shot, and I completely overshot him.
Mhm.
And I just, after losing the doe and after overshooting him, I couldn't mentally take it anymore. And I broke down and just said, I can't do it. It's just one of those seasons. I think when you haven't, for me, I haven't harvested a deer. I think this is my second year,
Mhm.
which isn't that long. I mean, there's people who've gone for 5, 10 years without getting a deer, but it starts to kind of drain you
Yeah.
when you go out, you try, you put in all this work. And we were talking about it too, how it mentally drains you. And I'm not saying bad things about people, but when you see people that don't put in as much
Yeah.
effort and have huge success, and then you're sitting here just working away, trying your best, and it's just not working out.
Yeah.
So it's just been one of those seasons. And I know that when I get to December 31st, if I don't have a deer, I'll look back on it and I'll say it was a crappy season.
Mhm.
But I know I've mentally learned a lot. I know what I need to work on in the off season. It really grows you as a hunter when you have these bad experiences.
It's true.
Um, it's
It
it's something
sucks.
that, yeah, it totally does. I mean,
Let's just be honest. It sucks.
it's a great
Yeah.
experience. But
And
I
I've
think
been
without,
there. I mean, I've
yeah,
2 years ago, I made an excellent shot on a buck. It was almost last light, maybe 30 minutes before sunset, and thought it was great. I mean, there's a blood trail. I was crawling through a thicket that you could not stand up, that I couldn't stand up in being 5'2", let
Yep.
alone, a grown 6'2" man following me through it. And found I pushed him. I pushed him, and I
Uh,
shouldn't have. If I had just waited,
yeah.
I found the bed that he was laying in covered in blood. I mean,
Ugh,
it was heartbreaking to have found where he probably would have just laid to rest. And
right.
I bumped him because I was too excited to get out there. And we never found him.
Oh gosh.
And it, like you said, it tore me up. It was a
Yeah.
while before I got back out there. Uh, and it taught me to be patient. And it taught me a whole lot of respect for the animal that I was hunting, to give that time, especially to such a mature buck.
Yep.
But to lose a deer after making a shot like that, it just, I went to bed sick that night.
Yeah.
And for many nights after that, it takes
Yeah.
you emotionally and mentally on a very long journey of processing through why you're hunting. Do you want to continue to do this? What if this happens again? Like all those things going through your head. And
Yep.
it did. It took a while to get back out there.
It does. Yeah. And I mean, you think about it. You think about it every, like I'll go sit in the stand, and even now, a couple months after, you still, what if
Oh, yeah.
I'm more patient? What if I would have done this,
Mm-hmm.
that? And it's just, I think it just it sticks with you, and it kind of fades away at some point, but not totally. You're
No.
always that.
Yeah, 2
And
years later, I still, whenever I put my crosshairs on something or my eyes on something as I'm taking a shot or releasing an arrow, that always comes into my brain every single time.
oh yeah,
So,
it is. It's a haunting thing.
mhm.
But you're talking about patience, and I think that is like the biggest thing you learn as a bow hunter when you have these kind of things. I mean, that patience, you can't find. I mean, you can find it in other areas, learning from other areas of your life, but as a hunter, you really, really learn it. You really learn patience as a hunter.
Yeah.
That's a really huge thing for me.
I think that that's a lesson that if you haven't gone through it as a hunter, then you are probably the luckiest person in the world.
Yep.
But at the same time, when you do go through it, you feel very alone because it's not talked about all that often.
Oh no.
And
There was something I think I had posted something on Instagram. A lot of, when you go on social media, it's a highlight reel. People
mhm,
don't always talk about bad experiences. And I think more people need to, because there is this other side of hunting that's not just trophy bucks hanging, that you got lined up hanging on your wall. There's these other experiences that nobody really wants to talk about the horrible, downside of hunting, that is, these things happen.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's so important. I can't grow as a hunter without going through those. So how am I? There are tons of people ahead of me in experience, but there's a lot of people behind me in experience. And if I'm not going to
Mhm.
be honest about how I've become the hunter that I am today, then like you said, all they're going to see is a highlight reel. They're not going to see
Right.
the tough lessons that have gotten me to where I am as a hunter who respects the harvest, as a hunter who treasures every single moment out there, whether I'm harvesting something or not. And I would not be the person I am today without losing that buck.
Ex-
And I don't wish it on anybody, but I don't hide the fact that it happened because, again, that makes me who I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeesh.
I know.
It brings
Like,
up, like, it brings up in my stomach as talking about it and hearing your feelings behind it. It brings it all back to the surface, those feelings that happened years ago.
yep. Yeah.
But again, like you also said, I didn't harvest a deer for the first 2 years that I was hunting. And
Yeah.
then I went through another 2 years in between where I swear to you, I got cursed by somebody based on a football game. And I said something snarky, and they said, I hope you don't harvest any deer this year. And guess what? I did not harvest any deer that year.
Oh, no.
And I blame them to this day.
Oh, what a horrible curse to put on
It
somebody.
truly is. It truly is. But that's going through those years of nothing, or going through a year where you barely get by. It's a hefty reminder of the years of plenty to be grateful.
It is. It sure is.
Man. Okay. I want to switch a little bit into fishing, because we actually did a lot of fishing this year with the kids, and we did a lot of wade fishing, which has been different than anything I've ever done before. I always bank fished or fished off a boat. And so wade fishing threw us into a whole different, or threw me into a whole different aspect of fishing. But you guys ice fish a lot. And that's something that I have a desire to try.
Sure.
It looks amazing.
It is.
It
And
looks freezing cold too.
it is so cold. A lot of people, they have their shacks, portable, or the fish house. So you can stay fairly warm when you have one of those. But my favorite type of fishing to do is open. So I like to, drill the hole, and I like to just sit out there with no shack, no heat. It's just, I don't know, you get the elements, I guess. It's kind of the way to do it, but it is fairly cold. It depends on the day.
The wind.
The wind, the sun, if the sun is out. It's really addicting.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I mean, it's different, obviously, than open water fishing, but it's pretty fun to do once you get all your equipment set up.
That's what I was going to say. Equipment wise, what would you say are your top 5 things to take with you?
So, I really didn't use, like the Vexlar, the fish finder, stuff like that. Before my husband, I was just kind of I'll do it. Either you sight fish,
Right.
or you. Yep. So that wasn't big for me, but he got me hooked on his. So I like using it now. But I had never drilled a hole with an ice auger before. So last year, I said to my husband, I want to learn this. Can you teach me this? Because I want to know. Because we both always couldn't go out and take our son with.
Right.
So we turns. We don't have family close to watch him. So it was either the few friends that you trust with your kid, or it was we take turns. So we took turns, and we'll probably do that some this year. But I said, I need to know how to use this. I want to learn, because I'm going to have to drill my own holes. So he taught me. He bought me one for Christmas, and that is the best. My favorite thing to do is to drill holes with my my ice auger. It's like exhilarating, this power tool that you can take on the ice. So that's my go-to. You really want a warm suit, ice suit, when you're out there on the ice, especially if you're sitting out there without a shack. You got to have something that's going to keep you warm in the elements. And for me, that's been a real help to have that warm ice suit. So I guess it's more of some anglers have certain jigs that they want to bring and all this kind of stuff, but I don't know. I guess I kind of just I throw together whatever I can, and I go out there and just try my best, and bring what equipment I have or we
Mm-hmm.
have. It's just for me, it's about going out there, enjoying it. If I catch fish, obviously I'm going to try to, but if I catch fish, it's a bonus. But it's kind of nice just to being out in the middle of a lake,
Yeah.
hopefully with not that many people around you, and just enjoying it, enjoying fishing.
What's your favorite fish to catch out there?
I really like catching northern. A lot of people throw them back because they don't want to deal with cleaning them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bones in, but they're really, if you can clean them right and you can get their bones out, they're really good. Fried up, breaded and fried up. They're fun. They put up a really good fight. And
That's the exciting part.
That's exhilarating, know?
Yeah.
A lot of people up here love catching walleyes. Walleyes are delicious. But I don't know. I remember looking at a picture when I was little, standing with next to my mom and her holding a giant northern. And maybe that had something
I bet it does.
to do with it. I don't know. But yeah, that's one of my favorite fishes.
The
to
nostalgia
catch.
of it probably has.
No,
Mm-hmm.
that's gotta be. But it for me, it's just, it's like I said, going out there and enjoying it.
Yeah. Yep.
By the part.
We were able to get a lot of fish this year between rock bass and what were some of the others that we caught? So many different kinds. I never have caught a trout. We went trout fishing multiple times this year, and my husband caught one and we ate it and it was delicious, but I've never caught one. I just did not get lucky, and I didn't hold my mouth the right way, is what my grandfather used to say. You're just not holding your mouth the right way. But between smallmouth and rock bass, and we got a couple of different things. We got some hybrids that we brought home and had a bunch of fish from multiple meals. I think my favorite way of cooking them is to make fish tacos on the grill, smoke and make fish tacos. Or we did smoke the trout with butter and dill, and it just turned out delicious. But it has, this year, hunting season-wise, eating things that are within the season has been pretty cool. We ate all the fish. There is no fish left. There was no saving anything. We did not fish enough to have that, but it was fun to eat all summer. We ate all summer. We ate great fish.
So I'll give you this because my husband found this recipe, and I think it was like off Duck Dynasty. He was watching the show one night. So you can do this with any panfish, but they used crappies.
Yeah.
And what they would do is they would put mustard coat them.
Oh.
And then flour and then fry them. The best fish I have ever had. The crispiness is just, oh my gosh.
I'm going to have to try that because we get crappie all the time. So
you're good.
We're going to have to try that.
You gotta give it a go. And I guess they use there's another recipe that you could coat it in like mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the mustard one was, oh man.
I'm going to have to try that this next year. Because I'm all about trying new ways. We have an egg allergy in the house. I'm allergic to eggs. And so finding different ways of breading. But I've never tried the mustard, and I love mustard, so I'm going to have to try that.
Oh, so good. So good. And we used, so when they come out of the fry, you can sprinkle them. We sprinkled them with a little lemon pepper on the top.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love lemon pepper.
Oh, gosh. I know.
Yes. Now, I do want to ask, because I'm not Anybody who has listened to any of my podcasts, I never claim to be an expert on anything. Um, I know a whole lot, and I probably know more than the people who are behind me, but I am constantly learning because I like to ask questions and I like to know things. Safety wise on the ice, what are some of the things that you need to do before going out or while you're out there to make sure you are safe?
So for me, I usually, and my husband too, we don't really go out when it's early ice. We
Mm-hmm.
kind of wait. We're not the kind of people where it's an inch of ice. We got to go run out to the lake and try and fish on it. That's not our thing. Ice picks are a good safety device.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, we usually wait till it's later. So we're fishing on pretty thick ice.
Right.
You kind of want to listen to the lake, I guess you could say. Different pops, cracks, things like that. Just kind of be aware of your surroundings. Ice, I think they call them, gosh, I can't remember, ice cleats. So you put them on your boots.
Yeah.
They've got little, yeah. So those are good, especially if you've got glare ice out there, which right now there's a lot of that because there's not that snow on the
Mm-hmm.
top. So if you are out there and it's glare ice or there's no kind of traction out there, those are really good. Falls and slips are pretty common out on the ice, especially if you're running for tip ups. So anything you can do to get good traction is a plus.
Right.
Like the ice suit that I also have has like a Flotex technology in it, so it doesn't, you're not going to float. It's not like a inner tube or anything like that, but it's going to assist you if you do fall through the ice.
You're not going to sink, which is the big thing. Yeah.
Yep. So it's just kind of for us, we kind of wait till later, till the ice thickness goes up. But if you're going to go out there early, there's a couple of products you can look for, like the picks and the cleats and stuff like that, to make sure out there.
In any type of hunting, whether you are waterfowl hunting, whether you are tree stand hunting, whether you're in, the backwoods or the back country out west, like no matter how you're hunting or fishing, ice fishing, boat fishing, there are always safety precautions that you take, whether it's taking a radio with you out in the backwoods, whether it's making sure that there's a way to call out through a satellite phone or however, if there's an emergency. And I never get in a tree stand without a lifeline and a harness.
Yeah.
That's just, it is not worth taking the risk. And so hearing these things, hearing what you can do, once you've heard it, then there's no excuse, right?
Right. And you got to think about, like, if you fall through the ice, you're falling into, oh my gosh, that cold water. And then if you get yourself back out, you're sitting there.
Right.
I mean, for me last year, I walked out to where I was going to fish. So I parked and then I walked. So I would walk maybe over a mile to where I was going to fish.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no vehicle there. So what am I going to do if I fall in and need to stay warm? So you got to kind of think about what you're doing, how you're doing it. And then, do I need to bring extra clothes? Do I need to put them away from where my hole is in case I fall? Things like that. I mean, gosh, there's so many different scenarios you could put through of what could happen,
But if you don't, if you're just flying by the seat of your pants, that's how you don't survive. That's
right.
And I don't mean to make it a life or death situation in our conversation, but it is. It is something that you have to think about. I don't want to fall out of a tree and break my neck. I have kids. I have a husband. I have a life.
And like you're just saying that. The other day I was going to sit in a new stand and I crawled up to the stand and I'm looking down and it's kind of on a hill. And I looked in my pack and I didn't have my safety harness. And I texted my husband. I said, I'm getting down. I can't, because you think like you said, I have a family. What if I fall?
Mhm.
This stand that I haven't sat in this year, what if it breaks? Things like that. It
Yeah.
just goes mind. And if you kind of get that sixth sense going on about this doesn't feel right, listen to it and, adjust what you need to.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you've got to go out and buy thousands of
Oh,
dollars worth of things.
no.
You just need to make sure you're safe.
Right.
I've known way too many people who have fallen. I've known way too many people who have died. And so it is not something I mess with personally. I know people that still do, and I call them out every single time we have a conversation. Every single time, because it's something simple that you can. Most tree stands nowadays come with a harness. So
Yep.
you really have no excuse.
Right. Right. Or
Well,
like even just as simple as wearing orange or something,
yeah. Yeah.
Yep. You
It's the
just got to
little
think.
things. It's the little things. But no, those are good. Those are good things that um I had always wondered. I mean, we use a jet sled for hunting, and
Yep.
I know that a lot of people use them for fishing,
Yep.
for ice fishing especially. And so I was like, well, what else do we need? What do I need in my pack to come ice fishing with you? Um,
And like if you're kind of the best thing is to if you're kind of trying to think in your mind too or prepare your list is to if you Google ice fishing safety, that will come up with a list of stuff that you should have and that they recommend. And like you said, you don't have to go completely overboard and buy thousands of things, but
mhm.
just the picks, the cleats, the things like that are gonna keep you. If you fall in, you've got those ice picks to help you get back out, things like that, and they're not that expensive. I mean,
Right.
they're pretty cheap, so it's not. You're not spending thousands of dollars on it, but
No,
it's for your life. So you got
it's
to kind
worth
of,
it. It's worth the
yeah.
investment. Now we're gonna slip back into talking about Miss Pursuit for just a minute. I want to kind of close out on it because you have joined our group as a contributor, and I just wanted you to give us kind of a heads up on what your hopes are for joining the group of ladies.
I think for me joining, it was a group of ladies that encourage each other, that you learn things from, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like the hugest thing. There's so many people out there that on social media that are just I don't know, fly by the seat of their pants, and they're just kind of well, we'll just whatever. It's refreshing to see a group that actually supports each other, what women are doing out there. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to comment on someone's post or like someone's post or share something and encourage and give them the tips and the resources that they need to go out and do these things
Right.
that maybe you really want to do, but you're not sure to start, and you need that extra nudge or you need someone to go to. And that's really nice to find a group of women that do that. And just the articles on Miss Pursuit, I mean, my gosh, there's things that you read and you learn and you're like, wow, I never knew this, or that looks exciting, maybe I want to try that, or I'm glad that someone else feels that same way. Things like that is
Right.
really, that's something. When you find that, I think you really gotta
Jump on
you gotta
board. Mm-hmm. It's one
definitely.
of those things that I noticed right from the beginning. There's no competition in there. There's
No.
no one-upping. Not once have I read an article or seen a post or anything where I haven't felt complete excitement and an overjoyed feeling for that person. There's never been that, well, dadgummit, now I need to do this to one up.
Yeah.
It not once have I felt that, and I think that that's a great. I think that's a great thing to be able to say. I'm a part of a group of women who do nothing but lift each other up, and that's awesome.
Yep. Yep. That is true. And it's really hard to find that too. I think on a lot of areas, there's just these accounts that, yeah, I'll give you a shout out, but I won't keep supporting you or things like that, you know?
Yeah.
Nice to see that with Miss Pursuit, that they're actually supporting, they're involved, they're educating. It's refreshing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like you said, the articles themselves, the things that
Oh,
I don't have around me to be able to
yeah.
do, it makes me so excited that I'm hearing about these things. And hopefully, I'll be just a little bit more prepared that one day, if that does come to fruition, I'm not completely at a loss. I
Right.
have been able to study up and hear from these women to learn how to do that, to familiarize myself with educating into it, and so that when boots do get on the ground, I have a little bit under my belt of knowledge enough to apply.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to see women that educate other women. You know,
Amen.
you don't always see that in communities. It's always been a male dominated kind of thing, and now we're starting to kind of dip our feet in it, and it's nice to see
It's
that happen.
exciting. It's
Yeah.
exciting to celebrate. Yes. Well, tell everybody very quickly how they can follow you.
So my Instagram is Susie.Busta. So it's SUSIE dot B as in boy, USTA. I've spelled that out so many times and so many.
I bet.
And Facebook is the same.
Okay.
So it's, yep. So you can find me there. That's pretty much my only two social media that I'm active in.
Yeah.
Accounts. Yep.
And we'll be looking for you on Miss Pursuit, um I'm excited to have heard a little bit about you, and I appreciate your translucent stories, your honesty about feelings coming through a hunt. And there's the joy behind every hunt, and there's the frustration sometimes. And so I'm grateful for hearing from the authentic you. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.